All right, folks, we have a bunch of leaks and rumors. Well, I probably more call these leaks, but I guess you can call them rumors for the Nintendo Switch 2 because we all know June is right around the corner. June is obviously when the Nintendo Switch 2 is launching. It's also when there's going to be a large number of gaming events beginning with Summer Game Fest, Xbox Showcase. Now there's like supposedly a Sony thing happening, probably a Nintendo Direct and more. And you know what? We have some leaks and rumors surrounding this stuff, which is really exciting and bringing a lot of really great IP and games over to Nintendo Switch 2. Oh, and by the way, one of these things we're talking about today isn't even a leak or a rumor. It's just a straight up announcement of a brand new launch game for Nintendo Switch 2 coming from a major company that confirms a feature that we all suspected was part of Nintendo Switch 2, but we weren't quite sure until today. So, oh, this makes me really excited to dive into this stuff. I love getting into the weeds. But before we do, I want to remind you that we are giving away 2 Nintendo Switch 2 Mario Kart World bundles right now. All you have to do to enter is go down in the link in the description or the pinned comment. We'll be drawing the winners next week. And then we have one more additional system we'll be giving away through a live stream happening, I believe, the Monday of launch week. We'll be giving it away at the end of that stream. You'll be able to enter all throughout the stream. You do have to be there live to win when the winner is drawn. If you're not there live, we draw a new one and we keep drawing until we get someone who's actually present in the stream. That being said, I am so excited to dive into this because, guys, we're starting off with the rumor and leak train. And you know what? Famed insider, leaker, whatever you want to call him, Nate the Hate, is deep in the weeds on some of this stuff. First, it all began with something that wasn't really even related to Nintendo Switch 2. We see, a Ninja Theory saying today, on the 1-year anniversary of the release of Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, we have a special update for you for the game. And they're announcing it's coming over to the PlayStation 5 with an enhanced edition. Wishlist now. Okay, cool. That is something that Nate the Hate said was going to happen. And of course, this person was shouting out Nate the Hate for being right yet again. But you can see at the bottom here, Nate the Hate responded, and this is where it all begins. So Nate the Hate says, next up, Xbox games coming to Switch 2. What? What are we talking about? All right, well, we keep getting in the weeds. We get to this Nash Weedle post here. It says, Nate, remember Nash Weedle, another reliable insider, saying, Nate, a month ago, I got this information with the Xbox game release plan for Switch 2. There are so many, and we're going to get to this list in a moment. But Nate the Hate says, there are games on that list I have not heard. Doesn't mean they aren't coming, but I cannot endorse all the titles listed there. Now, it's notable here that he's saying there are games on the list he hasn't heard, but there are games on the list he obviously has heard. So all the games that Nash Weedle lists, Nate the Hate's not saying are coming, but he knows some of them are. So we're going to go over that list, and it's possible all the games are coming, maybe just not this year. All right, so let's look at his replies here. It says, Jeff Grubb says Sony has something in June. As we click on here, we can see a few more comments, but none of that has to do with Nate. Nate does respond to a few other things where it said, is Final Fantasy on Xbox? Xbox players are getting the short end of the stick. He says it's still happening. Talking about, obviously, Final Fantasy 7, because it's already announced for Switch 2, but not Xbox yet. Have you heard about the PlayStation Showcase? He hasn't heard of anything yet. Jeff Grubb, although, is out there saying he knows there will be a state of play next month, but that's about it. He talks about when his next Switch 2 episode is going to be coming. He's hoping to record something this week or next week. But it's all about the guest did not get clearance, so the episode would have been shelved. So whatever he's trying to talk about with there must be something that is very behind the scenes and top secret. He obviously wants to get an episode out for launch week, but we'll see what happens. Do you know if Microsoft Flight Simulator is planned for PS5? He says yes. So you're getting some PS5 stuff in here. But what about Diablo 4? Any news about it coming to Switch 2 on the horizon? That would be a good use of the mouse control option. He's not saying it's coming, but he's saying it would be good for the mouse control option. Maybe because he doesn't have permission to say it's coming, or maybe he just doesn't know. He obviously talks about some more stuff with Starfield and PS5. That's a very, very popular rumor. And then he just kind of stops. But there's more Nate the Hate beyond this, but we need to get to this list right here. Because as I said, he says, there are games on this list I have not heard. It doesn't mean they aren't coming, but I cannot endorse all the titles listed there, but he can endorse some, even though he hasn't said them out loud. So what's the list? Well, we've talked about this list before. But now we have just more credence behind it. Psychonauts 2, Doom the Dark Ages, Indiana Jones and the Great Circle, Ninja Gaiden 4, Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, which again just got announced that enhanced edition for PS5, Call of Duty 6, and Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition. Now, Call of Duty 6 seems like a given due to the fact that we know there's a factual contract between Microsoft and Nintendo for future Call of Duty games for the next 10 years. So that's probably a given because that's probably this year's Call of Duty. But then when we look at the rest of this list, I kind of go, okay, Doom the Dark Ages, we did get The Last 2 Doom games, including Doom Eternal. So I could see that id Software and Doom Eternal, in this case, Doom the Dark Ages, not Doom Eternal, is coming over to Switch 2. I would suspect that's probably one. Outside of that, then it's kind of anyone's guess. Like Age of Empires 2 Definitive Edition could work really well on the system due to the mouse mode. That might have actually convinced Microsoft to maybe bring it over. Psychonauts 2 to me would be just a good fit with the platform, but it's possible all of these games are coming over, but maybe not. Like Ninja Gaiden 4 and Indiana Jones, maybe those ones aren't coming anytime soon. Nash Rito's just heard about it early. Maybe those are like next year games or something. So again, we don't really know if any of these games are coming over. The thing about Senua's Saga is I think Hellblade is on the original Switch, so it would be kind of cool to get the sequel on Switch too. But either way, Nate the Hate's not endorsing all of these games. He's not saying they're not coming, just he hasn't heard about all of them. So cool. That is really, really interesting. But we're not done with Nate the Hate because he's talking more. And again, it's about more games coming to Switch 2. Now, we go over here, and this is coming from Reset Era, but we're using this Reddit post because it kind of summarizes everything. It says there's currently no port of Gears of War Reloaded in development for Switch 2, among other titles people are hoping for. So he's basically saying, hey, if you're hoping for Gears of War Reloaded, there's no port of it right now. Could happen in the future, but not right now. But here's the thing. He was responding to a comment over on Reset Era that said, Nate said we are getting Master Chief Collection for Switch 2, right? Nate responded directly to him and said, Sea of Thieves is planned as well. So one is starting to sound like Master Chief Collection and Sea of Thieves. Nate is basically saying both are coming to Switch 2. Obviously, he's not saying they're both coming this year. They could be. Who knows? But he's saying both are coming. So Master Chief Collection, Sea of Thieves, those are things that you're saying are coming. He says Microsoft is planning a lot of support, but he's not going to list all the intended projects. But many of the titles hoped for in this thread are not active projects, like Gears of War Reloaded. There's no current Switch 2 port in development. Could it happen if Microsoft wants to? But I don't expect such a release to magically appear and land in August alongside the PS5 and Xbox. So he's saying, hey, don't just expect this thing to release alongside PS5 and Xbox. If it does happen, maybe it's next year. You know, this is one of those things where I wish that companies would go day and date with Switch 2, but it is the early days of Switch 2. That stuff could be happening, next year, year after. But he also mentioned that many of the titles in the thread that people are hoping for are not active projects for Switch too. So I decided to include a list. Now, the thing about this list, and these are all the games mentioned, he says not all of them are active projects. That means some of them are. So, Grounded, Nintendo Switch 2 update. We actually find out that is a thing happening. Indiana Jones, Forza Horizon 5, Psychonauts 2, Avowed, Oblivion Remaster, Hi-Fi Rush, Doom the Dark Ages, South of Midnight, Starfield, and Gears Tactics. Now, he said he hasn't heard anything about Forza Horizon 5 specifically with Switch 2, one way or another. He'd love to see it on Switch 2. He also notes somewhere else that, it could just be possible he doesn't know anyone that would know about the Forza Horizon stuff. And then he says on Grounded should be getting a Switch 2 update. Yeah, so this Grounded Switch 2 update is something he is saying is going to be happening. No surprise there. It's on Switch. Getting the Switch 2 update makes sense. Again, we see Psychonauts 2 here again. That was on the Nash Rita list as well. It's one of those ones I'm starting to think is there. Doom the Dark Ages is one I'm starting to think is there. The rest of these, I don't know. Oblivion Remastered, I think would make a lot of sense because we do have Skyrim on Switch. So it's going to be interesting to see what comes over anytime soon. So some of these games might not happen for years. I know some people might think Indiana Jones is a shoo-in because that was a big IP for Microsoft and they'd like to recoup as much money as possible by getting that on as many platforms as they possibly can. And we have seen Indiana Jones and the Great Circle run on some fairly mundane hardware on PC and stuff. So it is possible that it does downscale quite nicely to a Switch 2 platform. But again, it's one of those, who knows if that's actually in the works right now. And again, he's not saying all these games won't come. He's just saying, hey, he can't vouch for this list. He can't vouch for all of it. Some will come, some he hasn't heard anything about. So that's really interesting. You know what's also really interesting? How about a game that currently is a PlayStation exclusive because Sony published it, coming to Xbox, but not just Xbox. How about Nintendo Switch 2? We have a report here from Niche Gamer that says Stellar Blade sequel announced, more ports in development. So developer Shift Up has officially announced a sequel for Stellar Blade, alongside confirming more ports for the original game. News of a Stellar Blade sequel was confirmed in a developer Shift Up's latest financial and investors report, which confirms the sequel is in development and will launch by 2027. It remains unclear if Shift Up will self-publish the new sequel or if they will seek another publisher like Sony, because Sony published the original one. Furthermore, the same investors report also confirms that more ports of the original Stellar Blade are in development, confirming the game is probably coming to Xbox consoles and possibly the Nintendo Switch 2. Now, Obviously, when you see a claim like this on a Sony published game, you're like, hold up, Sony would never let that happen. Well, it's possible that that publishing agreement was just a timed agreement. We have seen that in the past where there are publishing agreements between the major platform holders, but they're only for timed exclusivity. And then once you get past a certain time period, they're allowed to publish it anywhere else. That could be the case. Now, I went ahead to look at their financial report here, the thing that they link. And if we look at it, it's pretty cool. Now, obviously, we weren't involved with the investors call, so we're not sure what was said on the phone call. We only have the associated material attached to it. And in here, you can see Stellar Blade right here, this little section that shows off the planned platform expansion. Then you see 2027. So this seems to be 2024. This is probably 2025, 2026 right in here. And then you celebrate, in fact, this could be a 2026 set. I'm just looking at the fact there's like different colors here. Like maybe this is 2025, maybe this is 2026. But then there's Project Witches. They're not putting years in this stuff, so everything's probably fluid in here. But we are seeing that a sequel for Stellar Blade is in development. And they're planning to have it out by 2027, which tells me this is probably a 2026 game. But you can see the platform expansion here for Stellar Blade. So that could be where all this is just coming from, is an assumption, because they're expanding platforms. It's already on PlayStation and PC. So expanding platforms beyond that, that leaves Xbox and Nintendo Switch 2 out there. So it's going to be interesting to see what platforms they announce. But it is notable that we want to bring this up, that this is actually official information from the company that owns the IP saying, hey, yeah, we're expanding the platforms, probably because that timed exclusivity came up. Now, I did mention at the beginning that there is a Switch 2 launch game, a brand new one that wasn't announced before, now announced by a major partner, and that partner is Koei Tecmo. And they announced that Nibunga's Ambition Awakening Collector's Edition is coming to Nintendo Switch 2, and they have a whole video here on gameplay. Now, this is a real-time strategy game. We can fast forward into it. You can see them talking about it. You can see them kind of playing the game. They're showing off, the controller and the mouse stuff, and they're going to show that they're using, besides Nintendo, some of the first time we've seen third parties using this stuff in a video, showing off a game. And they're going to show off mouse mode here. They're showing it being used. Obviously, they show it off being used in non-mouse mode as well. But there's one new thing they show in here that we all assumed was probably supported by Nintendo Switch, but we weren't 100% for sure because we hadn't seen it in use yet. And that's when we fast forward to here. You can use a USB mouse. Yes, you are allowed to plug in a USB mouse either in one of the USB-C ports if you're in handheld mode or tabletop mode, or obviously right into the dock, and you can use mouse mode just like a PC. We all assumed when we saw the mouse mode functionality with the Joy-Cons that the Switch probably supports traditional mouses, and we don't know, obviously, if this is going to be a game-by-game basis support, like the game has to open up support for it, or if it's just supported directly through the operating system. I would assume games like Metroid Prime 4 Beyond probably support mouse mode, and he's showing, like right here, he's going to be going back and forth between the control options, showing that Nintendo actually made this a very, very smooth transition. She's right back to the controller. So Nintendo made like switching controls very smooth with mouse mode. And that's something I really like to see, that it's not this overly complex thing where you have to wait for things to sync up and you have to go into menus and choose different things. No, you can literally just freely switch between your control methods, whether it's a USB mouse, whether it's using the right Joy-Con in mouse mode or using traditional controls. Again, I think this is just going to make it more intuitive and more likely to see all these different modes get supported. So I'm just happy to see mouse mode being supported. This is obviously a real-time strategy game. I really do love these kind of games. This game is announced to be coming on June 5th as well. That's why I said a brand new launch game. Now, I don't know if it's launching outside of Japan. At that time, you can see right here, it says Nibunga's Ambition Awakening Complete Edition launches June 5th. It's also launching on PlayStation 5 as well. I think it might already be available on PS5 because this is specifically a, Nintendo Switch and Joy-Con trademarks are Nintendo's. Yeah, this is specifically a Switch 2 trailer, or not even a trailer, more like a discussion. But I'm really excited by this. I'm glad to see that mouse support is in like full functioning, normal USB mouse support. That's just going to make people more and more likely to use mouse mode on Nintendo Switch 2 if they don't like the ergonomics and the feel. Like if I grab my Switch 2 mock-up, like if they don't like the ergonomics and feel of this and they want to use a traditional mouse, it's good to know that there's options to do that and that Nintendo Switch 2 naturally supports that. One thing we haven't had confirmed yet is if Switch 2 supports USB keyboard, because it would be really cool if you can just use straight up mouse and keyboard controls when in dock mode, even in tabletop mode. That would be pretty crazy. But again, we don't have any confirmation that that is supported yet. We haven't seen anyone even attempt to plug a keyboard in. That's one of the things we'll probably be testing out on June 5th is like, hey, let's go ahead and plug a keyboard in, see if it works. Can we type things in on the eShop? Can we, go to a game, and does the game have any support for it? Like, we'll see if we have any real-time strategy games like Civ 7. Maybe I need to pick up Civ 7 and see if that supports keyboard on, because that's like the one game I think at launch. There's a Switch 2 version of Civ 7. I think that's the one game at launch that potentially could have keyboard support. So I'm very curious about that. I'm very curious for someone to even ask Nintendo or even ask the developers behind Civ 7 if keyboard support is in, because mouse support is in. So anyways, again, just really exciting stuff today. I love bringing you the latest and greatest on the rumors, the leaks, the actual news surrounding Nintendo Switch 2. Folks, things are only going to ramp up and get even crazier after the system actually launches. So if you think things slow down once Switch 2 launches, oh my gosh, guys, not only do we have an unboxing video, not only do we have a first impressions video coming your way and a big 8-hour live stream, guys, we go right from that into Summer Game Fest and we go into the Xbox showcases. We're going to get all these game announcements, so much more news, probably a Nintendo Direct. Things are just going to ramp up. Donkey Kong Bonanza is going to have its marketing campaign ramp up. Obviously, we have all the other games coming out. Age of Calamity, or sorry, not Age of Calamity, Age of Imprisonment. Oh my gosh, I can't believe we're getting another one of those games, except this time it looks like it's canon story for Tears of the Kingdom. That's coming out this winter. They're going to have to ramp up stuff for that eventually. Pokemon Legends is going to ramp up eventually. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is going to ramp up eventually. Oh my gosh, there's so much going on, and we're not even to launch day, and things just get crazier from launch day on forward. So I want to thank you guys for being here. I am Nathaniel Robojads from Nintendo Prime, and guys, you see that back there? I got that at PAX East. You might not be able to tell because of bokeh, but it is a Majora's Mask art piece. Let's see if I can. I'm going to try to change the focus on the fly here. And not that, this. So you can get a good look at it. If I can get the focus. Oh, there it is. You see that? See how good that looks? Looks even better in person because the light's a little blown out. Let's fix our focus here to end the video. So I'm in focus. All right, guys. I'm still not really in focus. Oh, my gosh. See, proof. I have no one behind the camera. I'm a one-man show here. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next video.